Hi, I'm Lisa K. Donner, along with Andrew Moran, Sarah Cowgill, Jeff Charles, and Graham Noble. And this is the Conservative Five, Liberty Nation's online TV news program. We've made it through the so-called summer of love after the George Floyd mess back in 2020. From riots, arson, assaults, and police, you name it, we survived it. And now the left is threatening a repeat, only this time they've aptly named it the Summer of Rage. A thinking person might ask if this is the best strategy for creating change in society. The answer would be, well, no, it is not. Americans do not generally respond with compliance when confronted by bullies. Just ask King George III. Graham, you're our non-compliant, one of our non-compliant people. We've covered this whisper campaign to rev up the violence from every angle. What do you make of this strategy? And do you believe, as I do, that it just might fail?
Well, of course, yes. Full disclosure, I am rather fond of non-compliance in general, but here's what I think about this. I actually believe that the left will achieve its aim through violence, but here's why. We all know the adage, never let a crisis go to waste. The left uses violence not so much as a way to get what it wants, because that's not very effective. Most Americans, as you said, are turned off by riots, destruction, and politically motivated violence. But no, the left uses violence as a way of prolonging a crisis. In the immediate aftermath of George Floyd's death, there was a short window of opportunity for a bipartisan discussion about police tactics and how certain police forces interact with the Black communities they police. The left, I believe, did not want that coming together. So they orchestrated and ginned up violence, anger, mayhem, and to drive both political sides back to their respective corners. So will the Summer of Rage over abortion issue achieve its goal? Yes, it will, because that goal is not to affect a satisfactory legal or political outcome. It's to perpetuate the division, the finger pointing, the animus between the two political sides.
Yeah, Jeff, keep it in the news. That's exactly. Graham, you're spot on with that. I couldn't come up with anything better. Keep it in the news.
Jeff, do you think that the Summer of Rage is actually going to happen? You see that rolling down the tracks, especially with the abortion leak thing?
You know, I'm a little skeptical. If it does, it won't be like it was after George Floyd. And by the way, I agree with you, Graham, because that's what I was saying too. I mean, what was the attention on right after the footage went viral? This was horrible. Everybody was angry about it, right and left, and they wanted something done. Then the riots happened, and that distracted from what was going on. So yeah, the media and the Democrats don't want the police brutality issue to go away because they love it. But with this whole Summer of Rage, there might be some violence. I'm not going to say there won't be any, but I don't think it'll be as widespread as they want us to think. I think a lot of this is kind of what Graham is saying, but I think a lot of this, they want to intimidate a little bit. But even that's not going to work. I mean, the law is going to be the law. The Supreme Court is going to rule the way they rule. Red states will pass the laws that they pass. And yes, I mean, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis already passed a law against, or the Florida State Legislature passed a law against protesting in front of people's homes. So there is going to be a reaction to this, and he's taking preemptive action. But I don't think this is going to be as crazy as they want us to think. I think they're hyping it up a little bit.
Well, you know, Sarah, politically speaking, violence is not a game-winning tactic for Americans. If you look at what happened in the 60s and 70s, that especially, the turn of that decade, you had Nixon in 68 and then Nixon again in 72, winning 49 states out of 50 in a law and order platform.
Yep. And because people don't like to believe that they're always going to be unsafe. This country obviously has advances in keeping their people safe. And whether or not we like civil unrest in the streets, to make a point, we don't like it when it comes to, say, our front yard or flipping our car over when we're driving down the street in Portland. That's not cool. It's never going to be cool. And whether or not they agree with the message, they're going to vote against anybody who promotes it. So I think, you're dead right. If the people are looking to keep things in the news, but not necessarily, have violence where they're lighting federal buildings on fire.
And we have to say that when it comes to the violence, it's again the poor people who suffer, right, Andrew? I mean, they're the ones where the businesses get closed down in the downtown areas, and they have to shut down and let their people go and try to keep going in the midst of murder and mayhem.
Yeah, I find it interesting when the Black Lives Matter protests, or when they rioted and they started dismantling or smashing windows of small businesses belonging to Black people. So yeah, you're absolutely right how it affects poor people the most. These small business owners, because a company, let's say, I don't know, Walgreens or CVS, they have insurance, they put this money into their budgets, they expect these things, but it's these smaller companies that cannot. I mean, you see right now during this whole democide occurring against small businesses now, they can't afford a lot of the things happening in this economy. So yeah, if the riot does happen, they hurt the most. Point out one thing too. When Sarah says, nationally it doesn't happen, you have to have a law and order platform. You have to remember, after George Floyd, a lot of cities started slashing police budgets, which of course result in higher crime. And they listened to their demands. But what's also interesting too is a few months after that, I think it was just last November, there were a lot of ballot issues being put for voters saying, oh, would you want to cut police budgets, for such and such and such? And what would happen? A lot of voters said, no, we don't want to slash police budgets. There were, of course, a couple of anomalies, but for the most part, people said no. And one more thing too, Tim made an excellent point about whole leftist riots and strategy. He was right when he said the only reason why the left does this is because they can't engage and articulate their positions in a peaceful manner. That's why they censor their opponents. That's why they use violence, because they can't have a debate of ideas, because they lose, because they can't do it.
Yeah, I think a couple of points there. One, what you were saying there, Andrew, is that, yes, you see, this is how I actually feel about it. Does political violence achieve a goal? Yes, it does achieve the goal of keeping the issue a contentious one. But you're right. You see, after the George Floyd riots, there was a knee-jerk reaction at the local levels. And so for a while, it seemed like those riots and that chaos and that mayhem actually achieved an end, but it didn't, because it backfired, because crime went up and now people turned against it. So yes, indeed, like at the end of the day in this country, the way most Americans feel about, political violence and civil unrest, it never achieves the long-term goals that they at least claim that they want to achieve.
Exactly. And an argument can be made that those who are the most violent lose not only at the ballot box, but also in the hearts and minds of Americans.
Absolutely.
I guess the left hasn't figured that out yet. Thanks, panel. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform, YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble. We're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, surf on over to libertynation.com. Join us in the member zone, just $17.76 for the year. Special thanks to our fantastic editor and post coordinator, Frank DiOrio, and our executive producer, Sarah Cowgill. I'm Lisa K. Donner, editor-in-chief. Thanks for joining us today. This has been a production of libertynation.com, where truth is making a comeback.